Welcome to the Highland Waves podcast, originating from Marshbrook Studios, located on a bank of the world-renowned Margaree River in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, Canada. On Highland Waves, we feature stories about the people, the places, and those who come to visit us here in Inverness County. I'm Pat Wall, your host. This morning, I'm pleased to introduce our guest, Mr. Denis Cormier. Welcome to Highland Waves, Denis.
Hi, Pat.
Denis is president of the relatively new, I think a little over a year or so.
Yeah, back to July 2024.
Okay. The relatively new Margaree Rivers Association, whose mandate is to assess and remediate the effects of climate change on the Margaree Rivers and their tributaries in order to ensure long-term viability and sustainability. Denis, you're a Margareer?
No, I'm a neighbor of Margareers. I'm originally from Saint-Joseph-du-Moine.
Oh, okay.
That's where I grew up, yeah.
Okay. So you were born and educated there?
Yes, I was. I attended a small elementary school in Saint-Joseph-du-Moine up to grade 8, and then went to high school 9 to 12 at NDA in Shettycamp.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So what motivated you to get involved in starting this organization?
Well, I've lived in Margaree since 1998. I've been a teacher for quite a while. I was a teacher. That was my career. My wife is from Margaree Valley, so we built a home and moved in 1996. And basically, I was, just living my life. Got interested early in doing a little bit of salmon fishing. Then put my rods away when my children came around, and didn't think much about what was happening in my community. Of course, when you're young and you have a young family, there's a lot of time devoted to family. And therefore, I wasn't really getting involved a lot in community issues and community associations or things like that. I was, like I said, helping out my family as much as possible. But since a few years now, I've been retired from the teaching profession, and just one day at the co-op, this guy up the road, Léopold Galland, came to me and said, "Denis, you know what? We've formed we have like a steering committee about the river, and we think you could help us out a lot." So I said, "Okay, good. I'll go to a meeting and see what it's all about." And that's kind of where it began for me.
Okay. How many members do you have?
Well, offhand, our membership is probably above 100.
Okay.
Or there's about it's a fluctuating number, because right now we started this fall another membership drive, and that's something that's ongoing. We do have a Facebook presence, which the other day reached 400 followers on Facebook for our Facebook page, the Margaree Rivers. And so it's we're certainly a novice association trying to help the river.
Okay. So your mandate is to assess and remediate the effects of climate change. That's a huge undertaking, which certainly will require a long-term approach,
Mm-hmm.
and will cost a lot of money.
Yep.
As of now, what are your plans?
Well, when I first came onto the association, and I became president at the association's first AGM back in July 2024, we talked it over as the directors, the board of director. And one of the things that I brought up is that there didn't seem to be a satisfactory answer to one question that I had, which was, is there something that can be done to help the river? Because, I heard stories, I walked the rivers with many people, and, started seeing what was happening to the river, which was a lot of the river was getting shallow. It was getting really wide. There seemed to be a lack of channel where there once were like world-class salmon pools. And I was actually looking for answers as to why was this happening? Is there something we could do about this? And a lot of the answers I was getting at the time were not satisfactory to me anyways, as a person, because they seem to be, the answers always seem to be, there's nothing to be done about this. This is what a river does, and a river will do what it does. And, but I was thinking, that doesn't seem to be like a very scientific answer. So I kept probing, That's what I did.
Okay. Well, as you know, there's another organization here. It's been here for 43 years, I think. The Margaree Salmon Association. Their mandate is to protect, conserve, and enhance the habitat for salmon and trout. And your group's mandate is to assess and remediate the effects of climate change on the rivers and the tributaries in order to ensure long-term viability. The wording is different, but at the end of the day, I think probably you're going to end up doing the same thing. The same results will take place, I think. And as you know, they have been doing some work on the river. They've done a study. They've done some remediation on certain parts of the river.
Yes.
So there was a geomorphic study done back, I think, 8 years ago. And, of course, that's outdated now. It needs an update for sure. Can you tell our listeners what a geomorphic study is?
Well, I am the first one who will tell you that I am not a rivers expert, but I'm learning. Every day I'm learning. So, like I said before, I wasn't very satisfied with the answer that, nothing can be done about this. The rivers will do what they'll do and stuff like that. So I kept probing, like I said. So I was interested in contacting Matrix, the company that had done that fluvial geomorphic study back and was presented to the Margaree Salmon Association back in 2017. So I was interested in speaking to Matrix. Basically, at that time, what I wanted to know, being that I'm not a rivers expert, I wanted to know if that assessment of the river still had, was it still important? Is it still current? That was a very simple question that I wanted to know. Now, over our short time, one of the things I've been doing is trying to make connections with all the players that are involved in the Margaree Rivers. So I had made contact initially with DFO, a person that works at DFO, their habitat offices in Halifax. And I asked him that question: would this fluvial geomorphic assessment still be relevant for how the river is today, now in 2025, 2024? We're actually having that discussion in 2024. And the person that works in habitat at DFO out of Halifax office said, yeah, I think it is. I think you could still use that as a basis to move forward in your association. But I was still interested in talking to Matrix. And now what I discovered about Matrix, the company, they're a big conglomerate company that used to be in the Maritimes, but now had moved basically West Ontario and west of Ontario and down into the States. And that's where they did most of their work. And I tried to contact them and I couldn't. And I failed at that. But then we had this person from DFO come up in December of 2024. And there was also one of his colleagues that came up to walk the river in the Northeast, on the Northeast branch. And we wanted to show them what was happening. And, you know, they expressed a lot of concern as to what was happening. And it was on that visit that I had also discovered there was the major Matrix report that had been presented to the Margaree Salmon Association, but there was also a smaller report that was done after the major report, also from Matrix, and it was a way to, it was kind of a step-by-step, shorter paper as to how the Margaree Salmon Association could have moved on if they had decided to, and what were their first steps, second steps they should have took. And this paper really was kind of the step-by-step process that would have been undertaken if the Margaree Salmon Association had continued on that path. So I had a copy of that paper and I presented it. I gave it to the guy from DFO that day because he had not seen it. He hadn't seen that secondary, smaller paper. And he opened it up and he said, oh yeah, Ron Jenkins. He was the senior project manager on this Matrix report. And the guy from DFO said, you know, this guy has talked at conferences on river rehabilitations before. And if I'm not mistaken, he said to me, I think he's still based out of New Brunswick. So then, of course, I put my detective hat on because I'm still searching to contact Matrix, which I couldn't contact, but I had a lead to contact the senior project manager, which is Ron Jenkins. So I looked everywhere. Of course, where do you look? You look on Facebook, you look on social media and other places, and I couldn't find any mention of Ron Jenkins. And then it occurred to me, if he's anywhere and he's a professional, he must be on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. So I went on LinkedIn, and there he was, the only place that he was. And I've asked him this question since then. I said, Ron, why are you not on social media? And he does very little advertising for his company, 5R Environmental Consultants. And I said, why do you do so little advertising for your company? He said, Denis, I don't have time. I'm so busy doing work on rivers throughout New Brunswick, into Quebec and Gaspé, and in PEI, that I don't have time to almost run my company because he's always on the go doing this environmental work on rivers. This is a guy that has a career, of 30, 35 years working on rivers. So finally, I had, so on LinkedIn, I sent him a message. He responded right away. And lo and behold, he has seen what's happened to the Margaree River since 2017. This guy is a scientist that has a passion for river, and sometimes comes and visits. He has a friend here outside of Bedeck that he visits So I talked to him in January of 2025, and I said, would you be willing to come and because what we need is an explanation as to what's going on in the river. He said, yeah, I'll go there in the spring. So he came in the spring of 2025, May 17th and 18th. He was here, and he walked the northeast branch of the river, and the second day we were on the southwest branch of the river. And it's amazing the wealth of knowledge that he has on river. But he has kind of a different approach. Like, he's not the type of guy that wants to come in and put armor rock where maybe there's flooding, because what he looks at is river function. And, basically a river has two functions. One of them is to get water out of the watershed, move water out of the watershed, but it also has the secondary function of moving sediment through the watershed. So, I've been discovering so much, and it's so interesting how Ron speaks about river. And, at the end of the 2-day visit, I asked him a very simple question. I said, is there something that can be done about this? Because I was always getting the answer, there's nothing to be done about this. This is the way rivers function. This is the way rivers act. This is the way rivers behave. And who are we to try to influence that and stop that or change that? But I asked him I said, can something be done? And his simple answer was, there's always something that can be done. Mm-hmm. So that's the road that we're on, which is, you asked me about the Margaree Salmon Association. I applaud all the work that the Margaree Salmon Association has done in the past, and they are doing now. They're doing a lot of good science, which is very beneficial to the salmon population. But, in the end, their association is doing that science, and our association is doing another type of science, which looks at river function and how we can help the river get back to what it's supposed to be doing, because it's not doing it now.
Right. This has been going on for a long time. People complaining, landowners in particular, who live along the edge of the river, who've been talking about losing land. And in some places, my understanding is that they're losing up to 4 meters of land a year, and that's a lot of land. Mm-hmm. What are those individuals doing to help themselves?
Well, I've been schooled on rivers through a lot of elders in the community. And historically, what was happening on your property was, if we look back to the 1930s, 40s, maybe 1950s, 60s, what was happening in Margaree with landowners is that if they saw that the river was starting to do something on their property, it's my understanding that they used to contact the Department of Agriculture, maybe DFO. I mean, there was a time that there were DFO wardens. I don't know if they were called wardens, but they'd walk the river almost on a weekly basis or more to see what was happening on the river. They were, there was a lot more eyes on the river, let's call it that, than there are nowadays.
Yeah.
And, I might be mistaken about this, but landowners are really powerless right now, because if you call DFO now and say, our river is in big trouble, can you come and do something about it? In yesteryear, they would have come, they would have assessed the situation, and they probably would have done something about it. And the Department of Agriculture is probably not on the scene at all right now. So that's why I'm saying landowners are really powerless as to what they're doing, what can be done on their property. If they were to do something and try to do something themselves, then they have the obligation of following the rules.
Yeah.
And the rules are today, well, I mean, you can just imagine. You have to go through the Department of Environment if you want to do something that
the
affects the
bureaucracy
bank.
is long.
The bureaucracy is long, it's deep, and it's almost impossible for landowners to get something done.
Well, the other issue that you mentioned earlier in terms of time was back in the 1950s and before that. The Cape Breton Highlands has always been an economic activity where there were forestry going on for years and years. A lot of clear cutting going on. Things are changing now.
Yeah.
But I think there was a lot of damage done back in those years. And now we've got climate change coming on, which makes it even worse. So I wonder whether the companies who are doing that are taking any responsibility for what's happening down below, if you want to use that term.
Right. That's a great question. And, you know, I don't want to always say that we're a novice organization, but we are a novice organization. We've only come on to this since 2024. And the thing is that's a great question. And I guess you could ask the same question of, you know, oil companies that leave oil rigs on the prairies, or mining companies that after they've extracted everything else.
Same thing in a different location.
It's the same issue in a different location. Companies usually don't have, or they have not allotted a certain amount of money to make sure that what they leave behind is going to be fixed. So, I mean, fantastic question. And, you know, this brings me to the First Nations on the Hunters Mountains right now, who are trying to do something to help what is actually happening in the Highlands, you know.
I think that unless companies are forced to do certain things and have groups like yourself advocate for what is there, they stay fairly quiet. And unfortunately, it doesn't benefit very many people except themselves. Have you attempted to form an alliance with like-minded organizations? DFO, MSA, Atlantic Salmon Federation, those kinds of people? Have you been in touch with those people?
Yeah. I've been in touch with all of them.
Okay.
DFO, the two people that work in the habitat out of Halifax. I'm an email away if I need something.
Good.
To contact them. Of course, Ron Jenkins has come in and helped us on many things. So he's a really good partner also for our association moving forward with our long-term plans.
Good.
And when I talk about long-term plans for our association, I've already said to my directors, you know, we will not see instantaneous results. This, you know, I'm retired. I'm 60 years old. I'm looking at putting maybe 20 years into this association.
It's long-term.
It's a long-term project. It's nothing that we're going to fix overnight, but I think we need to start somewhere.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
ASF, Nova Scotia Salmon Association, we are in talks with them to try to form deeper relationships. But of course, they already have a partner in the Margaree Salmon Association. So sometimes, you know, too many players get involved and maybe that makes things complicated. I'm not sure. But we are continuing to talk to ASF. I'm trying to schedule a meeting next week with Ron Jenkins and the Nova Scotia Salmon Association because they were interested in hearing what Ron was proposing. We had a meeting, a public meeting that was well attended.
Just recently, wasn't it?
It was about 3 weeks ago where Ron came down and was talking and kind of was going through the issues of the Margaree Rivers. It was well attended, and Nova Scotia Salmon Association had a rep there, but this other rep contacted me and he wanted to hear Ron. So we're trying to get a virtual meeting done next week. So that's all very good. It's moving forward.
The other thing is the Margaree River, and it's always been used, the Margaree River, which for most of us who know the area, it includes the rivers, the tributaries and the southwest, etc. Mm-hmm. But it's a heritage river. And I was just wondering whether there would be any benefit in contacting the Heritage River, the people who are responsible for the Heritage River, and seeing whether they are interested in helping resolve some of the issues, or at least provide some funding for planning in that sort of sense. Mm-hmm. Have you gone that route at all?
Well, maybe this is fresh in our mind because we were at a meeting last night that we did discuss. There was a meeting of all the associations in the Margarees, and like was explained to me last night, because we're a new association to this, it was explained that the Heritage River, it's now been taken over by the Margaree Salmon Museum. Yeah, the Margaree Salmon Museum. And, that's another avenue, I think, that we should explore. Because there might be something there that, it's hard. It's kind of a strange thing that the federal government of Canada does this Heritage River thing, and then it's kind of left by itself. And so, I think it's another avenue that we can explore.
I think it should be pursued because it's a federal responsibility since they have designated it, and I think they maybe need their feet put to the fire.
Yeah.
To say, look, put your money where your mouth is, and let's. We have some problems here. Help us resolve that.
There should be some responsibility on their part to do something.
But this is a big issue, and I feel personally that it needs to be addressed by a number of organizations, just not your organization, but your organization working in partnership with other groups.
Yes. And
it seems to me you started that process. Mm-hmm. Have you had serious discussions with the Margaree Salmon Association about their thoughts about what you're doing and how you could collaborate in that sense?
We have. Actually, when was it? It was sometime this summer. I decided basically that we needed to have a sit down and talk. So I contacted Paul McNeil, the president of Margaree Salmon. I said, Paul, why don't we just have a conversation? We're two associations that are trying to benefit the river. So we sat down, myself, and I had one of my friends, Richard Donald, who is a new member of our community in the Margarees, came with me, and I said, why don't we just sit down, Paul, and we'll have a conversation. And so we sat down with Paul McNeil and the vice president, who is Patty Poirier of the Margaree Salmon Association. So we came in and, we basically kind of wanted to come in and ask them very simply if they would collaborate on a few things, Basically, the public meeting that we had 2-3 weeks ago, where Ron was coming in. Our association did a lot of work to promote that meeting, basically a lot on social media and stuff like that. And I had contacted ASF, Nova Scotia Salmon Association, and Margaree Salmon Association to come in. Basically, I think we need to go back. I think this is interesting because back in early 2025, we had a virtual meeting where on the virtual meeting there was and this was in discussion with ASF and Deidre Green, who was the director of programs for ASF at the time. I think she's changing her role now.
She has, yeah.
But so I talked to Deidre and I said, why don't we all get together and talk about what we're doing and see how we can collaborate? So this took place early 2025. We were on a virtual meeting. So everybody got on and we basically explained what we were all about. You know, ASF said what they were all about, what the work they're doing. Yeah. All the entities did that. And at the end of the meeting, we said, why don't we have a public meeting to come and, you know, let's have input as to what can be done about the
Flesh it out.
Flesh it out, yeah. Anyways, that meeting in the spring never happened. So what, you know...
In the essence of time, we're going to have to shorten it up here.
Yeah.
But in the end of the day, is there some light at the end of the tunnel that you can work with these people and reach your objectives?
We're always willing to, you know...
Okay.
As a young association, as you know, we're looking for partners, actively looking for partners. One of the partners that we managed to get was the Unama'ki Institute of Natural Resources, who came in on a funding application that has just been completed by our association, and they gave us some in-kind funding for that application, which was spectacular. And I'm trying to deepen that relationship with the Institute. Now, in a nutshell, I will say that the Margaree Salmon Association, they are on a path to do the science that they do. Yeah. And like was so well said by the DFO guys that I know, he said, I don't think you guys need to be in conflict. It's too bad that you don't work together. But there's no conflict here because what the Margaree Salmon Association wants to do and are doing, they are doing. And the path that you guys are doing is a different path. It's still scientific. And this is what you guys want to do. So we're almost on different tracks. Yeah. Now, to me, the track that we've chosen, I think is the most important track.
Okay.
I don't think Margaree Salmon thinks it's the most important track, and they have said so because they are not interested in helping us with the track that we're on.
Okay. So at this point, how can people help you?
Well, that's a great question. I will say this. You know as well as I do, in small communities, what is missing is volunteers. Okay. And, you know, this association, like a new association, always starts with a lot of energy. But if things don't happen quickly and it's a process, maybe a 20-year process, people might get less interested.
You got to stay involved.
That's right. Yeah. So presently, we're always looking for directors. Our membership right now is in the process. I'm trying to get that activated and mobile and a little bit more agile as we move forward, so that we can improve our membership. But those are always things. We need people, basically. Okay. And in small communities, it's hard. So
you have a website.
We do.
And can you tell us what the address of that website, the URL?
It's our website is margareerivers.ca.
Okay.
Now, one thing I would say about the website is we have had, I should say, the possibility of buying a membership there, but I've been to the website lately. I need to do some more work because something has gone down. It's non-functioning right now, so I need to go and do some remediation work there.
Well, Denis, you and your group have a lot of work to do in addressing and resolving the issues you brought forward.
Yes.
And I commend you for taking all of that on and wish you all the best.
Well, thank you, Pat.
Thank you to our listeners, and a reminder to hit the like and subscribe button so you can stay up to date. Remember, too, subscribing to Highland Waves is free. Our thought for today is by Albert Einstein, who once said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." So long for now.